Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Central Texas Life. I'm Ann Harder, and today we're going to dive deep into the world of Brazos Forum. What is Brazos Forum, you ask? Well, Nancy Moore is here to tell us what this, and this is a group. Is it like a club? Or
It's an organization
Okay.
that has been around since 1986. So this is our 36th, it's the 38th year, but because of COVID, it's our 36th annual presentation.
So you kind of coming back.
That's right.
And that's why you want to get the word out, because
Yes.
you have got a fabulous program that is set to be on October 19th at the Mayburn Museum.
Correct.
In that wonderful theater, a great theater there. The key thing that you do kind of focus on history and arts and that kind of thing, right?
Yes, the lady that started this back in 1986, Jean Epperson, had the feeling with several other ladies that she had talked with that the South and Texas in general were looked down upon culturally by the East Coast.
No.
So they decided to do something about it.
Well, of course.
And they created Brazos Forum, where they would bring in nationally known speakers to talk about topics, and they chose to relate to American decorative arts, which included history, architecture, landscape, gardens, porcelain, silver, you name it, anything that was included there. But one of the goals was to try to offer scholarships, i.e. free attendance for students and their teachers
Good.
that were studying related topics, because if we don't encourage young people to appreciate these types of things, we're not going to have anyone to go to our galleries, to our museums, or our concerts, or anything that's important to those of us that are here now.
Yeah, the history that they represent is our history, and if we just let it go by the wayside, which very easily could happen, particularly the arts. I mean, we find in schools, if budgets get tight, those are the kind of things that go first.
Exactly. So, and we're having that problem now with buses are not available because of cost, and then substitute teachers have to be hired. Mothers and dads can no longer drive the children. That can't be a cost saver. So there are a lot of workarounds that we have to do, but it's working. And now that COVID's passed, we hope, for the
Right.
time being, then we're hoping to get back to what we were doing before. In the past 5 or 6 years, we have sort of broadened the type of themes that we use each year. In the early days, they were very specific and somewhat more academically oriented. But in today's world, people have the connection to the internet. They have so many options that we feel like we want to offer something that is enticing, entertaining, but also informative and educational.
Well, you have got an amazing program set for the 19th. That is a Thursday.
Correct. A Wednesday.
Oh, a Wednesday. Okay, and it's like a full day
It is.
of activities and programs and
When
things.
this began, it was 3 days,
Really?
if you can believe that, and it had tours in the afternoons.
Oh my
with,
goodness.
speeches in the mornings. It had luncheons and dinners and attending plays and
That's a lot of planning, though.
It was.
Yeah.
It was a great deal of planning. And then as things evolved, it came to 2 days.
Yeah.
And when I became involved in 2004, we had 5 speakers over 2 days. We did things in the afternoon. And the one thing that I helped change was that a lot of the activities for the luncheons were held in homes. But that meant that the ladies who were doing that couldn't come to the talks.
Right, they couldn't enjoy.
So here they'd worked
Yeah.
all year to get this going,
That's true.
and they were at home fixing
And they
lunch.
wanted to provide that,
Yes.
for
So
everybody. Yeah.
we started having it at local restaurants and whatnot, and
Mm-hmm.
now we stay at the Mayburn. We have lunch on the mezzanine. You don't have to
catered,
leave your
yeah.
car.
Mhm.
It's all right there.
Yeah. Oh, and that's great. And of course, the Mabry Museum is just wonderful.
Their theater is perfect.
It is for
has
what you do.
amazing sight lines. We have a choice of different types of equipment that the speakers can use. If they want to stand at the podium with a mic, or they can walk around with a headset or a lavalier.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is, and their technical assistance is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can do PowerPoints, and you've got all the visual support as well.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about this upcoming, and you just do the one a year.
That's all once a year.
Once a year. And this one, though, is really an interesting thing, having to do with enduring symbols of the United States.
That's true. It sort of is another evolution. In 2020, when we started planning for the theme for that year, our current president, Don Davis, wanted to do something that was presidential but not political.
Right.
It was
Sure, it was an
year.
election year.
And so we started planning, and we wanted to do something with the White House Historical Association, so that it would be the White House but not the political part of it. We looked at Arlington National Cemetery, which we're still doing. And then our third one that year was going to be the presidential libraries. But
Which we've got several in Texas.
right, and
Yeah.
COVID changed all of that, and we had to cancel. The next year, we talked with our speakers. They were all very involved and wanted to come back. Then 2021 was canceled. Well, this year, when we started planning, we decided that we were so far away from the election year and so forth that we didn't want to just focus on one or the other, that we wanted to look at a whole group of things like the war memorials and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
And Arlington National Cemetery had proved to be very problematic. It is run by the Department of the Army and the Department of Defense on two levels there, plus the National Park Service is involved, and the Cemetery Association. It had taken me 18 months to get permission for the curator to come to speak on it. So when I called her to see if she wanted to come in 2022, she said, "I'd love to, but you'll have to go back to the chain of command again."
Started all over.
And at the same time, the director of the Bush Library in Dallas, who was going to speak on the presidential libraries, was under a travel ban still. All the libraries are under the National Archives, and of all of the governmental agencies, they are the most strict about COVID rules. So we really kind of started over again. But we kept most of the same ideas and feel like that we actually have an even stronger program with the people that we have now.
Well, you have an amazing lineup. Let's talk about the different presenters you have.
To start off, we have a man who has served in the Marine Corps, so he has a military background. When he came out of the Marines, he went to college, and during the summer, he learned about a possibility to take tours. To work as a tour guide in Washington, D.C., and he just loved it because Arlington National Cemetery had always been a special place to him, and history had been a special thing. He grew up in New Jersey in a farmhouse in rural New Jersey that was built in 1758. And he said that it was his fifth great-grandfather who used his Civil War pension, whatever they're paid when they were dismissed, to buy that house.
Really?
So he had grown up steeped in history. And when he started doing these tours, he found out that was his absolute dream. So once he graduated, he opened his own company, and now he leads tours and has a staff, but he focuses on Arlington National Cemetery, and he's going to talk about the protocol, the rules, whatnot, how all that's involved there. But he's also going to tell us about the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and how meaningful that is. And then the thing that I think people know the least about is the Sentinel. And those are the U.S. Army soldiers who guard the tomb 24/7.
Right.
And a lot of their protocol had been sort of veiled in secrecy for years. So it's really something that I think most people, they don't know that
Right.
they wear, the heels of their shoes are slanted, so that even on the slanted slope of that area they walk, they're straight and the gun over their shoulders at the proper angle. You know, I would never know this sort of
Just
thing.
minutia. I mean, it's my understanding they're never to have drunk alcohol.
This is, I have heard that.
I don't know if that's true or not.
I'm really interested to see
Yeah,
what he
hear that.
tells us, because I had heard that they had to sign pledges of all sorts of things, and
Yeah.
they definitely, while they're on duty, they work hours polishing their brass, polishing their shoes, and then of course they have all of the official protocol while they're actually on duty.
Well, I've had the privilege of seeing the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and it is so moving.
Well, Buck will tell us about why they walk 21 steps and how they do their turns and all of that. So I think
Yeah.
that whether you visited there before or if you've just seen it in pictures or movies, this will be kind of a new exposure and a new experience with both the cemetery and the tomb and its sentinels. And then our next speaker is Carolyn Maraskin, is also a Washington, D.C. tour company owner and guide, but she's also a licensed architect. She started out designing buildings, particularly historical restorations and anything to do with urban planning in that area. But after about 10 years, she decided she liked to actually talk about the buildings and the architecture rather than designing them. So, for example, I think most of us have either visited or seen the Lincoln Memorial.
Sure.
But how many people have looked up at the top, at the frieze around the top of the columns, and seen the ovals that are representing the seals of all the states that were in the Union at the time it was built? Just little architectural details like that. So she'll talk about all of the war monuments and memorials that are along the National Mall. And I know that there are people who haven't visited D.C. that when you say mall, you think of shopping.
You think of shopping mall. No, it's a long, long grassy area. Yeah, that's the
Exactly.
National Mall. Yeah.
With the Smithsonian
Sure,
Institute
it's right
buildings
there.
all along and so forth. So she'll tell us about that. So I think there'll be a lot of little hidden secrets there too.
Yeah,
So
sure.
we'll all learn something. And then our third speaker, Matthew Costello, has a very long pedigree, but the primary things is he is the senior historian for the White House Association, Historical Association, and this is the arm that was started by Jackie Kennedy when she was trying to retrieve and replace all of the major pieces of furniture, decorations, and so forth to the White House. They said for the first century of presidencies, when the president left, they took things with them.
Yeah, it was, they treated it like a rental. they were there. Okay, I'll take this and give stuff away, and rather than viewing it like a museum.
Oh, they had no thought of that
Yeah.
whatsoever. They said that they even auctioned off things to earn money for whatever they wanted to
Oh
do
my
next.
goodness.
So it was not until much later that anyone thought about trying to save things. But at this point, the White House is an accredited museum. It
Sure.
has gone through that process. And since Jacqueline Kennedy, then many things have been returned. Families have willed them back to the White House.
Good, good.
And the White House is actually administered by a curatorial staff. I mean, they're all very learned, very knowledgeable, so that they really can keep it up, take care of it, and preserve it. But Matthew said that he will tell us some of the backstory, some of the things that even if we've toured the White House.
Yeah, you wouldn't know.
That's right. And of course, now the White House tours are very different from what they were 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I took a White House tour.
And it just, we
I'll
used
bet
to
it
be
is
able
different.
to see more of the rooms. It
Sure.
was much more open.
Well, after
Now,
9/11, I'm sure a lot of things.
everything changed.
In fact, I'm a little bit surprised anybody can still tour it. to be honest with you.
It's very difficult. You have to make reservations in advance, and what you see is you can see online.
Well, it's so fun to think about D.C. I've had the privilege of going there some. My middle son and his wife lived there, and I can remember going to visit them, and at night, driving, and you see these beautiful monuments lit, and I thought, what would it be like to be just living in a place where you don't even notice them anymore, and we go, and it's like, oh, there's the Washington. It's kind of like us visiting the mountains.
Exactly.
For people that live in the mountains, it's just and we're just awestruck, But that's how I felt about Washington D.C. and the different museums and things. And what a wonderful idea to bring that to life here in Waco.
Well, I'm particularly interested in it because for 6 years, my husband was transferred from Waco to outside of Maryland.
Yeah.
With Lehigh Cement, and we would get on the metro and ride into D.C. and visit one of the Smithsonian museums when you can do it leisurely, so you don't get museum overload.
Right, which you can if you're just going to be there a few
That's
days.
right.
You want to see everything, and then you kind of don't remember anything you saw.
So, I just became very attached to all of the different things, but they just keep adding new ones, so you never really see it all.
And it's of you mentioned the war memorials. I cannot explain it, but the World War II memorial is beautiful. But as I walked up to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial and have no family member that lost their life in Vietnam or anything like that, but it just is such an emotional. I just started weeping when you see all those names and you see people, doing a little rubbing of.
Was really inspirational. That sweet.
It really was. It was.
And then, like you said, all of those names, and each one represents a loved one.
A loved one
of many people.
Yeah.
And it's I have sort of a similar feeling at the Korean War Memorial, with the more than life-size bronze statues of the men walking through the rice paddies in the rain in their raincoats.
Oh yeah.
And you just feel like you want to go up and hug them and thank them or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's each one of them has its own special feeling and regard connected to it.
And there's one more special thing happening. Royce Montgomery, my good friend, who is one of the best singers you'll ever hear. He can sing Motown like nobody's business. So he's going to be performing for you. Wonderful, Royce.
Right. We recently, I guess probably about 4 or 5 years ago, we started adding what we call the musical interlude. This is just kind of a little light extra that we included in our programs. And Royce was suggested, and it just sounded wonderful.
Oh,
so
he's good.
He is amazing. I've enjoyed visiting with him and getting to know him. So we're looking forward to that. And then one of our wonderful local Waco people, a professor at Baylor, and he used to write an article for the newspaper and is very in demand as a speaker, David Smith, is going to do concluding remarks. And that sounds kind of like not that important until you've heard David do it.
Right.
He has a knack for listening to all of the speakers and synthesizing what they say and pulling it together and tying it up in a bow. It's really... He's
brilliant. I mean, he really is.
He really conclusion to our day.
No kidding. No, and everything gets underway. Again, this is the 19th. It gets underway at 9:15 in the morning. Or there's coffee, I think.
There's coffee that starts... we open the doors at 8:15. There's coffee and tea and so forth. And registration, everybody will have a name tag. Then the actual program begins at 9 o'clock. And we have another Baylor professor, another David Clinton, who is the head of the political science department, has a knack for introducing people. And he does the most amazing, fun introductions. He never does the thing that you all hate, where you read what you just read in the brochure.
I can read.
So we always enjoy David's introductions. Good. But it does begin at 9. Then we'll have lunch on the mezzanine that's included. But if anyone isn't able to get the reservation in before the deadline, they can still come to the talks. Even if they're not able to do the luncheon, we will have a waiting list because sometimes people become ill or
And
have
can't
to
come.
drop out. and
Right,
so we
right.
have-
And you don't
have
want
openings.
Yeah, don't want food to go to waste. But yeah, this is really going to be a wonderful event. And your deadline for those reservations is the 13th.
The 13th, the end of business on Thursday, the 13th of October.
Okay.
So we have to get the lunch order turned in to Aramark at Baylor. We'll be doing our lunches. They always do a wonderful job. And it's, we're just encourage people, if you have come in the past, to come back. We want to see everybody that we had seen in the past, but we also want new people to join us, and there is a special price. So it's much reduced for newcomers. If you've never been before, you can do the whole thing, all of the speakers, our entertainer, our lunch, for $75.
Very good.
So that's an incentive to try to get them to try it out and see what they are missing. And it's our speakers all sit at different tables at lunch so that you can have,
You have
an
a
informal
chance, right.
conversation with them.
Yeah, a chance to visit with them and pick their brains a little bit more. Very easy to sign up. You have a wonderful registration form on your website, which is brazosforum.org. Correct. And just go on there and sign up.
And there are brochures in the mail, but if you're not on our mailing list, look at the website, or around town we have people putting brochures out in different places. They are at the Mayburn Museum since we're holding it there. They're going to be in all of the libraries and a number of the banks, places where we're allowed to put paper.
Sure.
Doctors' offices aren't doing it anymore.
I know, isn't that funny? Yeah, no more magazines sitting around or all those things.
But it's our website is the best place for more information. You can learn the complete history of our speakers. It tells exactly what they're going to talk about.
And all your past programs that
It
are
does.
fascinating to look back.
It's fun. We even enjoy doing that and talking about
Remember, yeah.
this, the very best speaker we ever had. Or
Yeah,
whatnot.
well, this is going to be another memory-making one. What you've got coming up, because it's really going to provide a lot of insight into these enduring symbols, as you call it. That's what this is all about. And we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to learn a little bit more about Nancy. So stay with us.
Hi, this is Sarah,
And I'm Carter.
and this is Some of Our Thoughts.
We're two Southern sommeliers, and we want to share everything we love and know about wine. We started hanging out during quarantine and cooking and drinking and listening to music, and we just thought this would be a great way to bring everything we know to you guys.
We will make wine knowledge and food pairings easy and approachable. So put on your favorite vinyl, grab your favorite glass of wine, tune into our show, and let's have some fun.
Wine and vinyl. So check us out on roguemedianetwork.com or wherever you get your favorite podcast. We'll be talking about a lot.
Bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about.
Hey, I'm Zach,
And I'm Mike.
and we have a fantastic new podcast to tell you about. Bros, Foes, and Heroes. It's the two of us looking into the world of comics, breaking down some characters that you may have never heard of, and some that are just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, so Zach comes up with a character each time, and I go into it just completely blind. I don't know who this person is or what their abilities are or anything, and basically I guess we kind of go over their origin story and just some of the ridiculous stuff that maybe, especially Golden Age stuff.
Oh, Golden Age stuff is always the best, and we will make sure to highlight all of the shenanigans and just absolute weirdness of everything.
Yeah, that's right. So subscribe today and follow us on Instagram at Bros Foes Heroes.
And if you don't, I know where you live. Not really, but please subscribe.
Bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about.
Welcome to One Star Rewind, a new podcast about those dreaded one-star reviews that every business owner hates to receive, but yet every customer loves to read. During this podcast, we will peel back that one-star review to better understand how it happened, when it happened, and what the business owner is doing after receiving that one-star review. This podcast will be about love, hate, and laughter. On One Star Rewind, we will meet with real business owners who will tell their stories and how they do rely on reviews for their business. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or download us at roguemedianetwork.com. Please subscribe, but only rate and review for not a one-star review. Join us each time for a new review and a new story.
And we're back with Nancy Moore, who is you're the chairman of the Brazos Forum. Is that your title? President.
Well, it is called chairman of the board, but what it really means is I recruit the speakers. And
that's a big job.
It's a holdover from the original, the lady who actually originated Brazos Forum, because that's what she called herself. So there have been about 4 people through the years who have recruited the speakers. And we talk to the board about the themes. We talk about what we're going to. Sometimes you have a speaker that you have heard or has been recommended that's amazing. Yeah. So you build a theme around that. Other times you pick the theme and then find people. It's kind of like a treasure hunt. And my very first year that I recruited them, I cold called a very well-known author, and it's Hugh Howard, who had just finished his 13th book called Houses of the Presidents. And we were going, that year we were going to do things that involved the presidentials. And I got his name off of the internet, and when I called, and also this was shortly after Waco had a lot of bad publicity, and I was afraid he'd hang up when I told him.
You're from Waco. You're where?
But he was so gracious and so nice, and I probably would never have done the job again if he hadn't.
Yeah.
But I've been recruiting speakers since 2006, so it's been a great job. Sometimes it's challenging and frustrating, and I've learned things through the years that it's.
Well, you've built a network too.
That's right. It's a fairly small sort of circle of people that will help when you need somebody.
Right. Well, my hat's off to you for being so dedicated to this work. And a lot of the people, I was looking at your board of so many people that I know so well through the symphony and other local groups around town. How did you get involved with this in the beginning?
Well, in the very beginning, my late husband, Charlie, was related to Gene Epperson.
Oh.
Like one of these things, second cousin once removed through his mother's side of the family. But he was working and couldn't get away during the day, and actually it started while we were living in Maryland, while he was doing his shift up there. And then very unexpectedly, after 6 years, the company transferred us back here, and it was kind of like waking up from a coma because things had changed, but you didn't know what, and you're sort of afraid to ask some of the questions.
Right.
But when we came back, we started attending. In the past, we had only been able to go to the annual meetings, which were at night or in the afternoon on the weekends. But the second time we attended, I was asked to be on the board, and I thought, well, that sounds interesting, so I did that. And within a couple of years, then the lady that had been doing the primary speaker recruiting wanted to retire, and it was much harder back then. They had to write letters to people, and then
Very
you had
formal.
to wait for an answer. And that's the worst part is the people that tell you no quickly.
Well, then you can move on.
That's
Yeah.
right. But if you put it out there and they don't give you an answer, you can't do anything
No,
until you hear.
email has really
Yeah.
sped all that up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Text even and
Yes,
whatnot.
sure.
So
Yeah.
it's been a blessing, but I thoroughly enjoy it. It's I learned through times that you have to ask certain questions. You know, you learn which ones are important, and that early on I learned that I needed to talk to all of the potential speakers on the telephone
Right.
before we actually invited them. There's one sweet lady who did an amazing job through the most difficult situations, had a very definite lisp.
Oh.
And even in the wonderful technology of the Mayburn's Theater, it was difficult to understand her. So I felt badly putting her in that position.
Right. Right.
So but we've done all of our corresponding through email.
Yeah.
So you do learn. Hopefully, you learn to do better in the future.
Yeah. About how many people usually come to these?
We normally have somewhere around 80 adults, and anywhere from 20 to 1 year we had an entire class, all of the history students from Live Oak.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So we had, I think, like 80 students too.
Oh, what a great day for
But
them.
It was. I think that, and this year, I think our students some of them are going to stay for lunch, which is, we've had a couple of smaller schools that have done this in the past because they felt like it was a social learning opportunity.
That's important
for the
too.
students.
Sure.
That they don't often sit at a seated luncheon with adults and have to have conversation and small talk.
Good.
So we have tried to encourage more of them to do this and have found some underwriting to help pay for the lunches.
Oh, and that's good. And of course, the theater there at the Mayburn can seat quite a few people.
178.
Yeah, there you go. So you've got room, and folks need to go ahead and sign up. Go to
We
the
would
website.
like for them to do that because we wanted, we don't want to run out of space, but we encourage everybody to do so, and we just hope to see new faces. We would love to have people join Brazos Forum. We try to have other activities during the year. Sometimes we have bus trips, we have socials
good, yeah.
occasionally and whatnot.
Oh, that's good. Very good. So it's not, you have to be a member of a certain society and learn the secret handshake. None of that involved. Just sign up if you want to be a part of this.
Exactly. We would love to encourage a broad swath of Waco.
Oh, absolutely.
And in the early days, they actually had a representative on the board from all the surrounding towns: Lorena, Mark, Hillcrest, up to Hillsboro, and down to Temple and so forth.
Yeah, but you're kind of reinvigorating, I guess,
Exactly.
after COVID sort of did a number on a lot of people. Well, I like to end these little visits with a brief questionnaire similar to the one the late, great James Lipton would do on Inside the Actor's Studio. So here we go. What is your favorite word?
Love.
That's good. I've heard that before. That's a good one. Your least favorite word?
Goodness. Stubborn.
Okay. Yeah. What turns you on creatively, emotionally, or spiritually?
I love the theater and I love traveling. Those are my two favorite outlets.
Yeah, yeah. Well, then what turns you off creatively or spiritually or emotionally?
People that are closed-minded and that won't listen to reason, that they've made up their minds, and no amount of rational conversation will change it.
Yeah. Hard lines.
Exactly.
What sound do you love the most?
That's a difficult one. I can. The first thing that came to mind was show tunes.
Oh, all right.
I like being a theater lover. That's the
Yeah,
kind
sure.
of music that
Yeah.
I'm really fond of.
Sure. Yeah, you might hear one from Royce Montgomery. Yeah. What sound do you not like?
I don't like buzzes that are annoying to the ears. That like locusts and crickets and things like that.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Because you're trying to go to sleep and you hear it and you know it's in the.
Central Texas Life with Ann Harder is part of the Rogue Media family. Be sure to check out our other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate this show 5 stars on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.